I've been reading this book called The Laws of Creativity, and there's something in it that provided a newfound appreciation of something I already did, but never thought about in this context. It's something that, when I really started to think about it, became something I feel all creatives, but writers in particular, should be actively doing all the time. If you follow this advice, you can reduce the pressures of being original, enhance your problem-solving skills, increase your flexibility and adaptability, build a personal style, enhance your observation skills, and even find a greater appreciation for not only the works of others, but the world around you as a whole. And to prove it, later in this video, I'm going to give you a peek of a little system I've been building to help writers gain clarity with choreography. It's something that wouldn't exist at all without me applying this essential lesson. So, what is the lesson? Simple. The law of connection. The law of connection states that creativity isn't about creating, it's about combining. Creations are the byproduct of combination. Now, this isn't a revolutionary idea. For instance, the 5 Faces of Genius call this The Alchemist, but I think this is better appreciated when you see the type of stuff this can offer you as a creative and understand why this is true. For starters, take what I said about this reducing the pressures of originality. Those who obsess over it tend to get creatively paralyzed due to the pressures to do something different or new. And focusing on originality alone can, sadly, isolate people from your work. As the idea best puts, successful stories of any genre often take the familiar and find a way to present the idea in a way that feels fresh. Those who focus on originality exclusively often either break molds without understanding why the mold exists, or waste time trying to reinvent the wheel. This is where thinking in combinations can help. The originality of Pokemon didn't come from trying to create Pokemon or a cash cow. It grew from Satoshi Tajiri's childhood obsession with collecting, studying, and cataloging bugs, and his love of video games due to things like Space Invaders. This execution, of course, is mixed with the RPG genre, plus plenty of other things in combination with this, and the rest is history. This method just makes for a way better approach creatively, because you're not trying to force creativity so much as trying to figure out how you can fit things together you already like and understand. And this practice improves your problem-solving skills because it results in practical utility. For those who aren't familiar with that term, practical utility refers to the usefulness or application of something in a real-world scenario or everyday use. For us creatives, it's a matter of how effectively a concept or technique can be applied to solve problems, enhance the quality of a work, or make the creative process more efficient and productive. This is why I don't experience writer's block. When I run into issues, I approach stuff from new angles that can lead to unconventional connections that solve the problem. For instance, I know how important character writing is. That's one of the reasons I use profiling systems like the Enneagram, Myers-Briggs, and Reese motivation profiles when designing my characters. Where other people are struggling to figure out what their character should do, I can refer to them as manuals for even the tiniest of details. To show you what I mean, I need to come up with an idea for my character Cassidy's bedroom. I wasted time trying to work this detail out in the past, but once I adjusted to using systems like the Enneagram, I found it easier to grab information about potential aesthetics she'd like and design around that. I can do the same thing with all kinds of other aspects, on top of finding characters who share their Enneagram type. When I do this, I look at patterns in how they're portrayed to help with my own portrayal. I'm never stuck because I can easily think my way out of problems. This is what I mean about this style of thinking making you more flexible and adaptable. The literary and entertainment landscape is constantly evolving. Survival of the fittest comes down to the ability to adapt to the demands of whatever one is working with. If you're thinking about how to combine certain things, you're more likely to adjust to different environments much easier. And if you're combining from multiple sources or influences, you don't need to worry about just being a copy because you're more likely to transform the base elements into an experience only you can provide. The likelihood of others ever even considering what you do becomes far less likely. Good example, if asked, how do I write fight scenes? Most people tend to answer with some generic advice that likely won't help. I'm sure you've seen this before. It's stuff like, watch action movies for inspiration. Stuff that individuals have typically heard before. Stuff that's likely not going to give that light bulb moment. I, meanwhile, can offer you a unique system no other writer would ever recommend. I converted Magic the Gathering's Color Pie into a new system that helps me identify the underlying psychology of each fighter. This includes things like the best terrain, the types of gear, the typical patterns they fight with, variants within the type, how they interact with one another, and so on. As for how I use this system, at its most basic level, I look at how the two interact and apply fight scene structure to outline the fight scene's choreography. Then, once I have that, I shape the fight scene with prose techniques. To show you this in action, I identified one of my characters as a guardian. So, starting out, I know how he will typically approach action scenarios. The character he ends up fighting is a berserker. With this in mind, I identify the common ways these two interact with one another, then design the conflict using the more realistic fight scene structures. Once I had this done, all of this being done in my head, I wrote out the interaction using stuff I spoke of in the prose episodes, such as the lessons on clarity and continuity. And ta-da! I have a fight scene written, and I have the ability to systematically create more scenes with different results. I'm never going to be stuck. I can share how I did it with anyone, and it's something unique to me. Hence, a personal style. Of course, for me to come up with all this to begin with, I have to be observant of the world around me. That's why I said this thinking can increase your observation skills. I'm often on the lookout for material that I can combine with something else. I view it as feel, which leads me to learn about all sorts of things I might not have otherwise. I don't even always know how I'll end up using something, if I do at all, but it always gives me something to grab onto when I run into an obstacle and I'm trying to think my way around it. And this observation likewise led me to appreciate things I either wouldn't have in the past or stuff I already like in a way that I hadn't before. For instance, let's take this system I've constructed and use it to view the climactic fight between Obi-Wan and Anakin in Star Wars Episode 3. In sticking with the profiles, it's a Gordian versus Berserker showdown. These fights tend to be someone trying to hold a position against someone trying to charge through. A matador versus a bull. In this case, it's Anakin trying to overwhelm and break through Obi-Wan's defenses while Obi-Wan stalls the fight out as long as he can and tries to find a way to effectively counter. And for that person who was like, this is reductive, I actually don't have Anakin down purely as a berserker. I evolved the system even more by combining the profiles. While the core color is red, Anakin also has elements of a tactician during this phase, so he becomes a maverick. A maverick is a bit more than the sum of its parts, but I'm keeping it simple for the presentation here. Anyway, how Obi-Wan defeats Anakin actually touches well into the counter strategies for mavericks, force them into prolonged engagements, and exploit their lack of long-term planning. I didn't even appreciate the story of this fight until I tried to look at it through this lens. See what I mean about the power of using combinations? About how it can unlock so much more that's unique to you than if you try to be unique and different. To note, if you want to get your hands on the full outlining system I built, I'm going to be selling it soon. Subscribe to the channel to learn when it releases. It'll be the first of many nonfiction books I intend to release next year. And all of these books I have planned are designed through me solving common issues writers encounter through systems I design by connecting seemingly unrelated fields. Anyway, I'd love to hear about your thoughts on this approach to creativity or your experiences applying this. Does this help you solve things too? If so, how? And if it doesn't, where do you run into issues? I'd love to hear these things in the comments. And if you'd like more feel for your imagination, click on whatever video is being recommended to you. I've been leaving dots for writers to connect all throughout 2023.